Of course, there's always more to talk about, to argue about, if you'd like. I find in trying to design to a strict vertical grid, I try to do things to keep the math simple. Um, so if the as far as like precision goes with stuff, as long as I kind of stick to quarters, so 0.25, zero point 0.5, or 0.75, that the browser renders that consistently. Um, but look over here, this JS bin that I created, and you'll see you've got all of these blocks over here. If I show the HTML, and I'm setting them with CSS to specific sizes. So box 1 is 100 pixels by 100 pixels, the next one is 100.1 pixels by 100.1 pixels, and I just kind of go on and on and on and on. And you'll notice that I'm then checking with JavaScript to see what the rendered height has actually been. So after the page loads, I'm seeing if the CSS height that I've given it is the same as what the rendered height ends up being. And you'll notice that for whole numbers, those are equal. But for non-whole numbers, it's not, unless it's like a quarter value. So 100.25, the CS height is equal to the rendered height. So that's why I'm sticking with that. Otherwise, I feel like I'm going to start getting a certain amount of pixels of spacing that I actually don't want, and then that will throw off the baseline throughout the page. If you check this same link in Firefox, they actually all line up. There's more testing I could do to check the accuracy of things, but I just wanted something that seemed to work in the majority of browsers. So that's why I stick with, with pixel precision that's like this. I don't deal with like 0.3 or 3333 or 100.173654334, crap like that. So maintaining vertical rhythm also works well when you keep your math simple. So there's that. Rems, I love rems and I hate ems. I love having a single source of truth for line height and font size throughout the entire site. I dislike using ems because ems are relative to the font size set on the parent. So as a website is managed, when you use ems, when people start creating different font sizes, it can throw off the intended font sizes throughout the page. So I don't like to use them. And as well, like I find a lot of times when I see ems in people's websites, you get just crazy numbers like this that, I mean, I don't think make much sense. I do know that the browser has to round this off at a certain point, so you're not ever getting like this type of precision in a browser. And I think when you use values like this and you hand this off to other people and you try to manage it into the future, I think to some it scares them, but it also makes you feel like like psychologically, like it's so precise. Like I don't want to do anything that changes this because I'm going to ruin the precision somehow. I just, you know, so I don't like to do that. I used to like to use rems instead. Kind of talked about this already, but this isn't print, all right? So I think that we're free to reassess how we want to apply traditional typography practices online. I think that's something that we should discuss and argue about. I don't think anyone owns the rights to decide all this stuff outright. I think the best solution is just for people to, post what they like and let other people pick and choose what they might want to borrow from what we've figured out. You'll notice that when I display the baseline in this site, that if you're from like the print world, usually the baseline falls right at the bottom of the text. The text like rests right on each baseline. But this isn't print, all right? This is the internet, and all text is contained within a box. You can see right here, I outlined it for us, all right? And every, and the block is like this to make space for the ascenders and descenders of every font. And for the website, for the browser to be able to render everything, it has to know how tall everything is. So you kind of have these text blocks that represent the maximum height a block of text can be, so it can render everything proportionally. So on the internet, as far as baseline grids go, by nature, they're going to indicate where the bottom of the block of text ends and the top of the block of text starts. So that's why we see it articulated this way as opposed to the text sitting on the baseline. So I'm just keeping with the nature of the way that the internet works with text, the browser works with text. All right, moving on. It's all about the paragraphs. I guess if I bring this up again, that stuff fits in there too. But when you're trying to set text to baseline grid, it's the main paragraphs that you're trying to keep consistent throughout. You can have images or headings that take up more space, but when it comes time to switch back to paragraph text, you want those to fall like perfectly in line. And that's what keeps like perfect rhythm between all the elements in your text. I think that following a baseline grid can be easy, or it can be a nightmare. I kind of proposed a way that I think this can all be done easily without headache and easy to maintain. But if you want to get busy with rems and changing line heights all over the place, and busy with M's, then it can turn into like a real nightmare. This site's typography, I'm using IBM Plex Mono, a monospace font. So one of the benefits of doing this is, it's okay. See if I can get one that's 74, 75. Yeah, well, if I come over here, it's like, look at, I think it's on main. You can see that I have a width of 80 characters, but then I have a padding of 1.5 rems on each side. So this ends up coming out to like 75 characters per line on average. And because I'm using a monospace font in this case, every character has the same width. So if I didn't have the margin. Let's try like this. I'm just going to kill the, excuse me, the padding on it, and now we'll go look at it. Where am I at? All right, I'm at 80 exactly. Okay. So super easy to set a column width of 80 characters because every character has the same amount of space. Otherwise, the way that the character unit works, the CH unit, is it's a relative unit to the width of the 0 character. So that's going to differ because the M is wider than a 0 and the I is less than a 0. So unless you're using a monospace font, using character units doesn't really work out that well. But I mean, this is kind of like, you know, this project RDMKIT is like right there where development meets design. So for most people, this is going to be for those of us that write a lot of code. And if you write a lot of code, then you spend a lot of your time in a text editor looking at monospaced fonts. So this was kind of meant to complement and celebrate the work that we kind of do. All right, so there's that. I'm using a measure of 75 characters per line. You know, there's a ton of space. I think that 75 characters per line is fine. Free to do whatever you want. Keeping this generic. You know, this is just about typography. This isn't about all kinds of other aspects of design and layout. And I think there's a good quote coming up down here. Yeah, minimal design, maximum focus. All right, so that's something else I'm going for. And then, I mean, this is just another site, okay? I mean, there's, just because I do some of this typographical stuff and baseline grid and, you know, it doesn't make it better than anyone else's site. I'm just proving that it can be done, it can be managed. About me, I'm not going to say much. I'm just a fellow nerd. I've been designing and developing for a while. There's a lot of citations here from someone that is, you know, highly quoted and followed for techniques in typography as it applies to print. And then Oliver over here, who's got a lot of good stuff to say about typography online. And I included tons of extra reading for those of you nerds interested in other typographical articles talking about all kinds of different stuff. So again, like this isn't doctrine. This is just tools to help us make informed decisions and to have the discussions we need to kind of arrive at accepted practices for setting type online. That's it from the MOR section.